of Zoning Appeals meeting scheduled on October 1st of 2025 to order. Casey, would you take the roll, please?
David Cash.
Here.
Stephen Wanamaker.
Here.
Gary Gross.
Here.
Thomas Evans.
Here.
Jerry Heidenreich.
Here.
AJ Mintel.
Here. If you would all stand with me and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Okay. Next order of business is the approval of the minutes of August 6, 2025. Has everyone had a chance to review them?
I have not, so I will abstain.
Okay. Everyone else?
Yes.
If so, if there are no amendments or modifications, can I have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the minutes of August. Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cash.
Yes.
Mr. Wanamaker.
Yes.
Mr. Gross.
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Mr. Heidenreich.
Yes.
Mr. Mintel.
Abstain.
Okay. That will bring us to our first case of the evening. It's use variance case number 2225, a request by applicant Eric Hickerson for a use variance for the property at 2525 Atco Avenue. Casey, would you give us?
Sure. Would you like to swear me in?
Oh, yes. Thank you.
You're good.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
So this is a request by applicant Eric Hickerson for a use variance for the property at 2528 Atco Avenue to allow for the use of the property as indoor manufacturing and production, where Middletown Development Code Table 1204-3, principally permitted uses, prohibits the indoor manufacturing and production use type in the B3 General Business District. The subject property is approximately 0.5 acres and is zoned in the city's B3 General Business District. The purpose of the B3 district is to provide for intense commercial and office development in close proximity to the interstate and high-volume streets that can provide needed goods and services to residents of the city, region, and beyond. Such district is most appropriately located adjacent to freeway interchanges and along major streets. The applicant requests this use variance due to the unique nature of their business. The applicant states they will be mixing and bagging soil for their consumers. The closest definition for this use type in the Middletown Development Code would fall under indoor manufacturing and production due to the assembly component of the operation in the use type definition. That use definition for indoor manufacturing and production is defined as the manufacturing, processing, and assembly of products within a fully enclosed structure where noise, odor, light, or vibrations is not noticeable from the adjacent properties. Per Middletown Development Code, Chapter 1204.08, Table 1204-3, principally permitted uses, indoor manufacturing and production is prohibited in the B3 zoning district. The applicant does not believe, if granted, the variance would negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood or the delivery of governmental services. Per the Middletown Development Code, the requirement for legal notice for variance requests and meeting notice letters for the proposed use variance were sent to all properties contiguous and directly across the street or public right-of-way of the subject property. No comments have been received to date. This is the application. This is the Table 1204-3 principally permitted uses. This is the property. And this is the property located in our zoning map. Here are your use variance criteria. And here's the time limit and appeals process for the applicant, and that concludes my staff report.
Any questions for Dean or Vinegar?
Savage.
Savage. Vinegar is
Close.
Claire.
Claire.
Any questions for Ms. Savage?
No.
I do. I looked at Mr. Hickerson's appeal, and he indicates here he's requesting to reestablish a non-conforming use. Was this originally a non-conforming use which terminated?
So the applicant, in my understanding, had stated that there was previous indoor manufacturing happening at the property. However, the most recent zoning certificate that we had registered and approved through the city was for a Motors Metcalf Unlimited, which was classic car warehousing. So I can only prove warehousing, but that also could be there was a business established there with no zoning compliance who could have been operating as indoor manufacturing.
Non-conforming use, but not in this particular
Yeah.
fashion.
Yeah, they just didn't go through any sort of formal process with the city. Yeah.
Any questions? All right, if no further questions of staff, I'll open it up to the public. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this use variance application, please step forward to be sworn. Sir? Yeah. Raise your right hand, sir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Identify yourself, if you would, please.
I'm Eric Hickerson. I'm the applicant.
Okay?
I guess I'm here to just answer any questions. Here's a little history of the property. I've owned it on land lease for approximately like 6 years. The previous, the Metcalf, that was mentioned previously, was a were renters of mine. Before that, it was Harmon Ring Mechanical Services. I don't know if they're still around or not. Their sign is still on the front of the building. They were actually both buildings, the one next to it as well, which I own. And they did, from what I can tell, the electric that used to be to that property, that building, was like 3-phase electric for manufacturing equipment and stuff like that. That was the reason for thinking that it was being used for manufacturing. Since I've owned it, it hasn't necessarily. It's all been car people. I guess besides that, all I would say is that nothing that would be manufactured in there would be anything over noise or vibrations or smell that isn't already there or has been there for the past 6 years. And the manufacturing, in my head, I wouldn't consider it necessarily like a manufacturing as much as taking manufactured products and assembling them into a bag for sale.
Would you be able to describe that business a little bit? Just kind of give us an idea of what that looks like?
It would be getting inputs in either bagged or container form delivered, stored inside, and I don't have the space or anything for too big of inputs. Taking those, I had mixers produced and made in Tennessee, and those the inputs we put in there, ingredients would be added, dry and wet ingredients, water and stuff, mixed, and then the mixers have like a conveyor that would drop it into bags or pots, soil pots or something like that. I consider it like a Chipotle of soil.
Yeah.
Would there be any on-site composting or anything of that nature?
That's what, I guess that is a better way of explaining what I'm trying to explain, is that I wouldn't be composting anything. I'd be buying the compost from places that produce the compost and then just dropping it in the mixers and dropping it into a convenient take-home size.
Are you going to manage the business then, or?
No, yeah, everything is me.
So, yeah, I agree with your comment that I don't know if this is really manufacturing, it's not like sample.
Yeah, exactly. It's not necessarily, there's not anything I could point you to that would that has done this necessarily, as much as I know a lot of people do it at home and would rather have it done in a machine and easy to take home already assembled products. But
The reason that I see it, you have to have it inside it because for weather protection.
yes, exactly. Yeah, I would definitely not want these machines outside. Yeah.
The stock that I mean, obviously, you're going to be having delivery of topsoil,
Yes.
other components that you're going to mix to be bagged, right?
Yes.
Where are you going to store all of your stock? Is it going to be in the building or is it going to be outside?
Some of the stock might be stored outside, but would be in separate containers sitting outside until it gets put inside.
You can see the need for that type of a containment,
Yeah.
because if it rains or
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then everything has been used for cars in that building, and I could manufacture work on cars for somebody else, so I kind of wanted to do something with that building besides cars. But storage for cars is basically kind of the same concept of what I'd be using the building for, is to have the machines inside and everything's safe.
how many employees do you anticipate?
I mean, at the top, maybe like 5. Right now, it's just me.
And shifts that you intend on running, would this be around the
Normal
clock?
daytime shifts, yeah. And if a special order was needed faster or larger than normal, it might be like during the night to get the shift or to get the product done. The building next door to it is also part of the business, and it's retail. So it will be like kind of selling different things and the bags of soil that I hope to be mixing. The soil is kind of this winter I'm hoping to develop the processes and the sourcing of ingredients and the different mixtures and stuff will be dependent on the customers, what they want in there and stuff. But while the retail thing I'm getting going right now with redoing the inside of the building and stuff, as that's being worked by my fiance and maybe another employee at normal business hours, I'll be next door messing with this equipment and trying to get.
So the other building which you own as well that's going to be the retail location
be a retail
for this product that you want to make?
Yeah.
You want to not make.
Yeah.
You want to assemble,
Yeah,
so to
assemble,
speak.
yes, exactly, yeah.
Okay.
And amongst other products in the retail building.
I feel like it's worth noting that nothing that's happening in that building could be louder than what's happening on the railroad right behind it.
Well, I was kind of surprised that it was brought up as an issue, and as you notice, it's kind of cut out there, a lot of the property anyway, right up next to the building. And I think I assumed, I don't know where I'd seen it or something, maybe it was an older map or something where it cut into that building, and included my building. I don't know if that is true or if it's just me, but that's kind of where why I started. And I came up to David Riggs and asked him he started me with this process, and I'm learning the process, and I probably should have come to zoning first, but I didn't understand that that's normally how you do things.
The only thing I'm concerned about is how do you keep the area clean as far as transporting stuff? I know it's going to be bagged and stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff at some point. Do you have any means to clean it up?
Well, with the soil and stuff like that being dirty, is that it actually needs to be cleaned to sell a decent product, you know what I mean? And with the retail being next door adjacent, I plan on keeping the area extremely clean and doing it right now. That's what I'm excited about, is cleaning the property and the area up and not just using it for storage, but making it a unique kind of setting and spot to come get plants. And
Are you currently operating anywhere?
no.
So this is a new venture?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I've rented out the properties. I had an LLC and rented the properties out and got them paid off. And when those renters left, I was either get new renters or try to do something that I wanted to do for a while. So I was using the buildings as collateral for the money for.
You own the property?
Yeah, I own the property.
You own the property.
For cleanliness, I think, it's soil, it's biodegradable. The use previous with cars, any sort of mess there is potentially hazardous to the environment, and soil is like the opposite of that. So I think that's worth considering as far as like visual goes. Yes, I want it to be clean, but like the byproduct of a mess is not a concern in my view.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to get at with it needing to be a clean product for people to buy. It's actually have sterilization equipment and stuff like that for an autoclave, like a big Instapot to like sterilize my soils and things like that. So, I mean, it was very well put.
Is your customer base, I don't know if this is even relevant, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is your customer base the local population, or are you selling to big boxes?
I just got a grant was awarded a grant from Duke for $3,000 to put in the new electricity for this equipment, the new 3-phase in that building, and that was one of the requirements is to serve an underserved community, and so yeah, it would be for the name Woogie's Urban Soils is very direct, as in for urban yards, not necessarily have a connection with yards and urban areas as opposed to rural areas, you know what I mean? And there's certain plants and things that require like an urban setting, you know what I mean?
Right. Any other questions? All right, sir, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application, please step forward. Anyone in opposition to this application, please step forward. Seeing no one approaching, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and open it for board discussion.
This may be my opinion, but it kind of sounds to me off the top of my head, it reminds me of more of a distribution than a manufacturing. A lot of distribution places bring in items, separate them out, put them in different boxes, and it feels more like that to me than a manufacturing process. Now I know distribution's permitted with conditions, but that's the first thing I'm thinking off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Because I think we approved a variance or use variance up on Grand Avenue, on the south side of Grand Avenue, where the old medical building was for, and that's what, I mean, it's not, they didn't pour anything or do anything to create the end product, but they did have product, and that is a distribution center is a conditional use. Any other?
I agree with Mr. Wanamaker. As a member of the Planning Commission, I was thinking this might be a gray area which it would be interesting to, like, this is a service that is much needed in this area. It's rather unobtrusive. This would be something that would be worth looking into finding like a proper zoning slot for it, so it doesn't necessarily need to rely on a variance in order to exist.
Yeah, I guess it would have to
Yeah, that's a future thing.
find a verbal characterization for what's going on here, because I don't think it meets that definition of indoor manufacturing and production. Nothing really being, except for the equipment that's being used to fill the bags. Any other comments?
No, I will make a motion to approve, and I'm going to cite the review criteria C, D, G, H, and I, and I can read those if need be.
Well,
With the,
It has to be all of them.
yeah,
in addition to those, are you, do you want to include all of the criteria? It seems.
I mean,
I've
sure. I mean, I feel like technically A doesn't apply because it can be put to an economically viable use under other permitted uses, but that doesn't mean that it, like, should. But I mean, however you guys want to word it, I just want to vote to approve.
And to address that, in my mind, as I always consider viable use, you should always strive for the highest and best. And employment is a lot more important in the city than warehousing, and which has been its historic use here recently. So I would say economically, I would say the fact that we're having a business that is employing people eventually.
That is a good point.
And bringing tax dollars into the city, I would say that's the best economic use for that property right now.
So all criteria, AJ?
We'll go for all criteria.
Thank you.
Second the motion.
Ready?
Oh, roll call, I'm sorry. I'm sorry,
fine.
Casey.
Mr. Cash?
Yes.
Mr. Wanamaker?
Yes.
Mr. Gross?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Heidenreich? Mr. Mintel?
Yes.
Okay, we'll move to the next application. This is case number,
Mr. Cash, before we get to the next one, are the microphones working? Because I'm not hearing. All right. I'm not hearing people.
So I've been told that they've been turned on, but it doesn't appear they're working. Sometimes they go in and out. You might just have to use your outdoor voice inside.
Okay.
Because our IT department controls the microphones from back there, unfortunately.
we'll speak up. All right, the next case is number 2325. This is an application for an area and dimensional variance at 4729 Donham Drive here in Middletown. Ms. Savage?
So this is a request by applicant Sean and Wendy Rollin for an area and dimensional variance for the property at 4729 Donham Drive to allow for a recreational court to be constructed in the side yard of the property where Middletown Development Code Table 1206-1 permitted accessory uses and structures only permits recreational courts in the rear yard of a property. So 4729 Donham Drive is approximately 0.37 acres and was purchased in June of 2011 by the applicants. The property is zoned in the city's R2 low-density residential district. The purpose of the R2 low-density residential district is to provide for low-density, single-family residential uses in a more urban setting than the R1 district, in which are served completely by infrastructure adequate for the applicable density of development. Per Middletown Development Code, Chapter 1206.01, Table 1206-1, permitted accessory uses and structures, outdoor tennis and other recreational courts are only permitted in the rear yard of a property. The applicant proposes placement of their recreational court in the side yard of their property. The applicant states in their application that they do not have much of a backyard with the way the property is laid out. The applicant does not believe, if granted, the variance would negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood and the delivery of governmental services. Per the Middletown Development Code, the requirement for legal notice for variance requests and meeting notice letters for the proposed area and dimensional variance were sent to all properties contiguous and directly across the street or public right-of-way of the subject property. Staff have received 3 comments via phone and email from adjacent property owners. One adjacent property owner stated their opposition to the variance. This individual expressed concerns of decreased property value and increased activity and noise on their street and in their neighborhood. Another adjacent property owner was neutral in their opinion of the request. However, they asked if the Board of Zoning Appeals members would require the applicant to plant vegetation as a screen around the court, such as arborvitae or similar shrubbery or trees. And the final comment received was from a neighbor across the street who spoke in support of the variance, stating they have no issue with the proposed court and that the land has been bare for as long as they've been in their home. Here's the picture of their variance application. Here is the document received via email from the adjacent property owner in opposition to the variance. This is the screenshot received via email from an adjacent property owner in support of the variance. This is the site plan and additional information regarding the court. Here's a close-up of the site plan. Here's our table 1206-1 permitted accessory uses and structures. Here's the property itself. And then here's its location on our zoning map. Here's your area and dimensional review criteria, the time limit in appeals process, and that concludes my staff report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from Ms. Savage? If not, I'll open the meeting to the public. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, please come forward to be sworn. Sir, if you'll come forward right here to the dais.
Oh, watch your step.
Oh, yeah, watch that. And raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Identify yourself, please.
My name's Sean Rowland. We're the owner of the property.
All right. And keep your voice up if you would, because these aren't working.
All right, no problem. Yeah, so my wife and I moved into the property about 13 years ago. We have 4 kids, ranging from ages 8 to 15, so needed her for that. But and we've laid down roots in the city. We have, since the last couple of years, have been looking at, do we want to buy a different house, bigger house, with the kids getting older, with wanting to try to keep our kids at our house as long as possible, knowing the ages that they're getting into. Or do we want to stay where we're at, upgrade the house that we currently have? We have looked into properties in the area in Middletown. We truly do like the community. We're very involved with youth sports and athletics, with Middletown youth basketball, and other youth sports throughout the city, and really want to stay in the city. But to be able to do so, we're going to need to make upgrades to our home to be able to make it suitable for our lifestyle and needs. Our kids are already using that area for play on a pretty regular basis anyway. Right now, they're mostly football, wiffle ball games. So I know that there was some opposition, that they thought there'd be a noise complaints with it. But so with our backyard, if you can see, it's hard to see with the trees shading over top, but there's just not much room in the backyard. The side yard is obviously has the room that's needed for it, and it's adjacent to similar type outdoor structure, not really a basketball court, but a swimming pool that would be a very similar footprint to, I think, what we're proposing to do. Obviously, with our neighbor's yard, with the way it's structured, it's their backyard, which is, assuming if they didn't need a variance, probably why it's like it is. So can answer any questions that you guys have.
Any questions?
I just had one question. I just noticed on the site plan from, it looks like the contractor, I noticed that the court there is positioned up toward the front of the home pretty far. I was just looking at, say, what is stopping, maybe I'm not reading that right, as far as going back farther in the yard?
So the way he positioned it currently is it would stop prior to the front of our house. Okay. It's a contractor who does these throughout pretty much the tri-state, and has been in business for 25, 30 years. He thought that was the best placement, knowing that there would be variances and keeping it back. With the way that we're on a cul-de-sac, the only people who would see that outside of the neighbor right behind this here would be our neighbor next door and the neighbor across the street are the only people who would even see the structure from where they're currently at. Unless someone's driving down to the cul-de-sac, now there are 3 houses you would drive past ours to get to. But he proposed that just based off of his expertise on where he thought the layout was best. I don't know if there's an issue with him pushing it back further. It might get into their property some if he does that.
Let me ask you, Mr. Rowland. I'm assuming, because you own half of a lot between you and the Gordons. The Gordons are to your, I don't know what direction. Here, oh, no, there you go. Thanks, Casey. Mm-hmm. The Gordons here, you see where the Gordons are. They own the other, I assume they own the other half of that lot number, which ends in 044. It's another number. But anyway, I did some measurements, and would you go back to the site plan?
Yeah.
And let's assume this is north, south, east, west, not knowing what it is in this, but
This is
had you considered...
over here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, had you considered reconfiguring, it seems that there's a huge amount of room in the backyard if you turned it to go north-south versus east-west. Do you see,
That, and the builder said it would not work from a spacing perspective.
did he say why not? Because I've done all the figures here. I mean, you've got 59 feet between the setback line
It would
and the
still-
back
it
of the
would still
house.
Get into the side of it would still get into the side yard if we didn't, if I'm understanding what you're saying.
Well, I understand, okay, I understand what you're saying. It still would need this variance because it would be getting into the side yard if you pushed the court. But from the standpoint that it seems to coincide with the intention of this particular restriction, that would be more plausible and raise less concern from your neighbor than it being pushed directly up against the other portion of their yard. I don't know if I'm making sense to you, but, and I wished I had the ability to draw on here what I,
You're saying if you turn it this way.
yeah, and even extend it into the side yard, which we would probably consider to be a backyard. That would, is that,
Sir, you said that there was a large tree in the backyard, correct? Would that tree be in the footprint of where Mr. Cash is proposing you transform it to? So, and this is a mature tree, I assume. The work that would be done to put the court in that footprint would cause substantial damage to the tree, which would have knock-on effects to like its health. It will eventually cost the homeowner more to have that tree either removed now or down the line than it would to have this. I mean, he owns the space. You know?
All right, this is John Roach, counsel for the city. If I could just jump in and say, appreciate the comments, Mr. Mentel. But you know, right now, I think what you're getting at right now sounds to me more like deliberations, which you know now is the time to gather evidence so that we can use that in deliberations to come to a decision. So,
Thank you.
yeah, I think I would direct the board to questions to the witness. The witness can give testimony, and then the board can deliberate after that.
Casey, I think there's a photograph from the street showing the Rollins house. There we go. Let me ask you, where the court is intended to go, are you going to have to remove that big old pine tree that sits there?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And I guess it doesn't matter either way.
That white fence, is that where the swimming pool is located?
Yes.
Your neighbor's got a pool there already.
Yes.
Do you have any, from the standpoint of the court, like, do you plan to light it at all?
Yes.
So that they can, that's the reason I'm asking that is one of the neighbors was interested in the noise, and if you have it lit, it will be playing quite late out there.
Yes, we do plan on light.
I did notice you do have other structures in your backyard. Is that kind of, it looked like there was a fire pit maybe or things like that, so that takes up some of your backyard?
Yeah, takes up probably, I don't know the square footage, but I would assume about half of the backyard from the fence.
Is the pool next door lit at night, do you know?
I thought it had lights, but I don't know.
Any other questions?
Were you already planning on doing screening after it wasn't like, say it was installed? You were planning on doing like any sort of screening either from the neighbor's property or from the street, like using either a fence or foliage of some sort?
Yeah, so we had planned on having a fence that would be around the whole property, and the builder, who has 20-plus years of experience in building these, had recommended several things that I could not cite word for word on how he would, because originally we had one of the hoops on the side where you're shooting into the neighbor's area where it's the other way to try to minimize as much interaction with the neighbors who, because they're out in their pool and outside a lot. So they are out there and late at night as well.
Any other questions?
I'm glad to hear that you're going to try that, because a basketball can bounce a long way if you don't have something slowing it down.
Yeah, especially the way my kids shoot.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Rowland. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition of this application, please come forward to be sworn. Not seeing anyone, I'll close the public portion of this meeting then and ask for comments.
Well, I guess my previous statement applies either way, considering I did not see that photo from the street view with the pine tree. So,
We should have asked him, but, one of the comments that the people were concerned about is really the public place. It's pretty much going to be should have asked Sean.
Mr. Rowland, you want to step forward? I would open this just for the public portion of the meeting to see if, to ask.
I'm just wondering, as far as, are you going to anticipate having 5 or 10 other guys coming over there and playing with your kids and become more of a recreational park?
We do not,
The full court situation, I can see that. I know my grandkids would have full court games.
yeah, so we do not plan on having or I don't know what word you use, games I don't know what it'll end up being, but like for birthday parties, things like that, we would invite people over. And part of this, we would have friends over like we already have at our house on a regular basis and have them play in that same exact space that they're already playing in, yes.
Does that lead to any other questions of Mr. Rowland? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
The map of the location of where he wants to put
This one?
Is the light stanchion on the left facing this direction? Is that what that V looking?
I'm fairly certain that's it. I don't
This
have
right.
paperwork on it. That is
Right
the
there,
light,
yes.
correct. Correct. That's the light. It's facing away from, while their pool lights and house lights are facing towards our property, ours is facing away from theirs.
So this is facing your property?
Correct. And theirs, the same way theirs is facing to ours. Correct.
Any other questions while I have this open? If not, thank you, Mr. Rowland.
Yep, thank you.
And since, anyone in opposition, since Mr. Rowland has answered another question or two? Okay, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and ask for comments.
well, the way that I see it is that the homeowner's already made several improvements to the small usable space behind his home. They do own this, this parcel, and it's already being used for play. And as children age, they need structure to play. And so I do see this as being a logical thing to allow, especially in the context of it being in a cul-de-sac as well. It's not like your typical gridded street scenario.
And there's also a pool next to it.
I appreciate those comments. I don't quite agree. I see a situation here where this I believe, and I'll characterize it as the more convenient of the two configurations. Clearly, if this court was to be configured north-south, I think is the way Ms. Dean indicated that it was, or Ms. Savage indicated, that this is opposite of a normal.
Oh, so it's
North is to the left?
North is actually to the top.
Okay, to the top, like
Yes,
normal
north,
maps?
east, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if the, and I spent some time on this. I got onto the auditor's site to see if there were any more figures, and there were. I mean, the way the court now would be configured, it would be 7 feet between the house and the court, whereas if it were configured east-west and be in the backyard, even if it extended into the, to the other side, to the half lot, I'll call it the half lot, which I don't know whether that would be considered a rear or a side lot at that point in time. So even if so, it would be much more logical that I see, and if a tree has to be removed, a tree has to remove it. It looks as though this I know where this neighborhood is, and you all know where it is. They're all mature trees in there, and it's, at some point in time, if there's an option to put in a court and it costs a tree, that's a consideration for the homeowner. It's not for us. I think the plans for this could be reconfigured to comply with the current zoning code, so that's my opinion. And I would not approve the dimension variance application.
The reason why this board exists is because sometimes the current planning codes can't account for every scenario.
I understand. Sure. But if you look at your review criteria, particularly whether the special conditions and circumstances are a direct result from the actions of the applicant. Fortunately, the court hasn't been put in yet, or hasn't been begun to where there would be a stoppage, but it just appears to me that this is the more convenient of the configurations for the court, which now requires a variance, and I don't believe that that's a criteria that falls within our review criteria. So, any other comments?
I appreciate all of the comments here. My mind says I was more worried about the basketball court itself in the neighborhood being disturbed. But as far as the location is concerned, I don't have a problem with the side yard in this situation. I agree that it potentially could fit in the backyard, but I don't totally understand the hesitations of the applicant to put it there, because it's probably situations that I'm not aware of. And it would protrude, in my mind, into the side yard anyway, to some degree. So if we're acceptable as a basketball court in a neighborhood like this, that's my concern more than it is the location. That's what the variance is.
So just to clarify interpretation, zoning resolutions, or the zoning code, the rear yard is running sort of where the rear of the house is, straight back. So to the extent that it's behind the house and extends past the border of the house, it's still in the rear yard. Does that make sense?
So to clarify that, John, if
go.
if it were to extend over the dotted line here, which is the line between the perimeter line between the full lot and the half lot, if it were to extend over that line, it would still be a rear yard.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I didn't know if maybe that, like a corner lot, you've got 2 front yards on a corner lot. I didn't know if there was some exception.
I would, I kind of agree with what Jerry said there. I typically would not, I would be in favor of that. I would probably have a condition of screening. My problem is we're handcuffed with our criteria, and I looked at this earlier, and I've been looking at it as we've been discussing things, and it's just hard to pick a review criteria that can justify this as it's currently designed. But that's where I'm at right now. A little more discussion would be helpful if anyone has any other input.
No, I think you've hit it right on the head as far as
It's,
my thinking is I don't find a criteria
Right.
that justifies it.
Backyard would be preferred.
You know, you don't have to put a full court in if you're gonna go with the backyard situation. Like so many people have courts.
The area clearly allows for the east-west configuration of that court. I've done all the figures on it. In fact, it actually gives more room than this current 10-foot setback on the west side, and a 7-foot distance between the house and the court as it currently is, as the application currently shows.
I don't believe they can really shrink the court down, though, because if I'm reading this right, I think it also is going to be a tennis court. Because there's an overlay over top of this.
Mm-hmm.
And you couldn't,
That's actually a pickleball court.
or pickleball, yeah, well, it's still going to be, yeah, yeah, you got to have
Yeah.
bigger space.
So what I'm hearing from everybody here is that there is a little bit of ambiguity. And okay, maybe ambiguity is not the right word. But there are some questions in the air. Do you gentlemen believe it might be best to table and ask the applicant to maybe think of some alternative configurations to present? That's true, but even if he just pushed it back a bit and it was still technically
mind.
in a side yard,
In my mind, that doesn't resolve the issue. It doesn't, in my mind, there's no criteria that then all of a sudden becomes applicable simply by pushing it to the north from Donham Drive.
Well, and I was thinking about that too. And I might disagree just a little bit, just because if we push it back farther, the amount of variance to allow in a side yard is just going to be several feet, as opposed to the entire depth of a house. If it's pushed back as far back as it possibly go, it will not be intruding into a side yard by this far. It'll be intruding into a side yard by just a little bit, which I think might make a decision a little bit easier as far as uniqueness of the shallowness of the lot. They're trying to put it in the backyard, but they have to come over a little bit. I think that's more of a reasonable ask than the way it's currently designed. So I honestly, I hate to, regretfully, I would motion that we deny the variance, but encourage the applicant to come back with a different design as soon as they can for us to review.
There's a motion to deny the variance on the table.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please. Thank you.
Mr. Wanamaker,
Yes to deny.
Mr. Gross,
Yes to deny.
Mr. Evans, Mr. Cash,
Yes to deny.
Mr. Heidenreich,
Yes.
Mr. Mintel.
no to approve.
Okay.
All right, now we'll move to the next case on the docket. Is number 24-25. Excuse me. A request by applicant Jason Bowman for an area and dimensional variance for the property at 2223 North Verity Parkway. Ms. Savage?
So this is a request by applicant Jason Bowman for an area and dimensional variance for the property at 2223 North Verity Parkway to allow a sign 15 feet in height and 88 square feet in area in the B2 Community Business District, where Middletown Development Code Table 1220-2, maximum sign areas and height for freestanding signs, only permit signs 10 feet in height and 50 square feet in area. 2223 North Verity Parkway is approximately 0.48 acres and was purchased in August of 2022. The subject property will be the site of the new Arby's and is zoned in the city's B2 Community Business District. The purpose of the B2 Community Business District is to provide for areas of the city that will contain a wide variety of commercial and office uses to meet the needs of the city and region that require access to major arterial streets and are in close proximity to major residential neighborhoods. Measured per the Middletown Development Code, Chapter 1220.05A, measurements and calculation for signage, the proposed freestanding sign would have a total height of 15 feet and an overall signage area of 88 square feet. The property is zoned in the B2 Community Business District and has a lot frontage of approximately 100 feet. Per Table 1220-2, maximum sign areas and height for freestanding signs, a freestanding sign with a lot frontage of 0 to 150 feet is permitted to have a maximum sign height of 8 feet and a maximum sign area of 50 square feet. Therefore, the applicant is asking for an approximate 87.5% increase in allowable sign height and an approximate 76% increase in allowable sign area. And it looks different than the numbers that you have on our staff packet because I realized the calculations were incorrect from another case. So these ones on the screen here are correct. I've double checked it, triple checked it, quadruple checked it. And then per the Middletown Development Code, the requirement for legal notice for variance requests and meeting notice letters for the proposed area and dimensional variance were sent to all properties contiguous and directly across the street or public right-of-way of the subject property. No comments have been received to date. This is their variance application. This is their proposed sign. This is their site plan. The monument sign would go right where my mouse is there. This is the parcel showing that it's approximately just under 100 feet of frontage on Verity. Here is Table 1220-2. Here's the property again, and on the zoning map. Here is your area and dimensional review criteria, your time limit in the appeals process, and that concludes my staff report.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Savage? Is the sign a monument sign?
It is.
You mentioned monument, but I don't see a render. Oh, there we go.
Yes, on the very far left.
I thought maybe that was some type of a message board. So that's actually what is proposed.
Yeah, so it's that like wooden base area right there.
Right, right. Hold on, sir. Are you the applicant? Yeah. That's all right. Just hang loose there because we may still have questions for the staff before we open it up. That's all right. You're all right. You're all right. Okay, so it's a monument sign.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this is on North Verity. This is where all the...
Yeah.
This is Restaurant Row down there.
Yes.
Yeah. Any questions for staff, for Ms. Savage?
I do see it's noted in the staff applicant that like the property is surrounded by legal non-conforming signs. I actually drove on that road on the way here.
Yeah.
Seems that all of them are legal non-conforming. I forget the exact term, but like the tower signs were like, you know, they're 20 so feet in the air.
Yeah. You can see one in this picture.
But this application is for a legal non-conforming monument sign?
No, so this is a brand new sign. So this is their empty lot that they're constructing Arby's on right now. So this is a sign that does not exist but will exist in the future when they're maybe get their variance.
Any other questions for Ms. Savage? All right, if not, I'll open it now, this meeting to the public, and ask anyone who's in favor of this application to step forward and to be sworn. Sir, if you'll raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And identify yourself, please.
I'm Justin Scalf. I'm actually not Jason Bowman, so sorry to disappoint.
And
But
try to keep your voice up as best you can.
So Justin Scalf with One Stop Signs. I'm actually going to be the installer and the applicant for the variance section, okay? Jason Bowman was associated with the initial submittal to the city for zoning before we got the denial, okay? So, the last time I was here very recently for our older Arby's location, we did that variance just recently. We had an existing pole sign, right? And we went through the rigmarole of legal non-conforming or non-conforming. I don't have any of that in this case. This is all brand new. Okay, so we've got to look at it with a clean slate. It's never a coherent argument, and it's not a clear argument or an establishment of hardship to say that all the other surrounding businesses have 20-foot signs. Therefore, I should too. There is no hardship in this case. I don't have a structure blocking the view. I don't have a weird wide right-of-way or a weird topography that blocks the perception of the sign. I don't have that in this case. Okay, so I just want a clear up and down vote from council on whether or not we're comfortable with a 15-foot sign in that area. I know that new development in the area has actually exceeded 10 feet in height. I'm not going to say any names, but when I pulled in and got a spicy chicken sandwich and waffle fries, I noticed it was a little taller than 10 feet in height. So just take it in consideration. We're also asking to exceed from 50 to 88. If the property had been just a little bit wider, we would have been allowed 80 square feet of display area. But that wasn't the case. We have this weird narrow corner lot. I will say that the sign is facing perpendicular to what will be residential. So when it casts light out, hopefully it's casting to 2 parking lots and not to any residences. I was really nervous today that we'd have some opposition show up from the homeowners across the street. That didn't happen. So I just want to highlight that we don't have any present opposition today. If I had had a homeowner show up today, it would have blew up the whole case. So just please consider us. I'm here for any questions. But yeah, 15 feet in overall height. And then please trust her calculations on square feet area because I managed to screw that up 3 times. So it's very convoluted. I do want to say that the gray area of the display is actually like an opaque brushed nickel finish. It's opaque and it does not cast out light. So the only, at night light display is going to be the logo itself and then that display area below in text, if that makes sense. Also, another weird thing about the sign is it's got 2 poles going up the side, which most districts would actually calculate that as area of sign. In this case, the way they've designed it has really helped to calculate against its square feet area. They've really shot themselves in the foot on it with the design.
The text, is that just backlit letters or is that LED screen?
It's backlit.
Okay.
It's not LED.
Okay.
It's just stationary, changeable copy.
Okay.
How many, you just said something that you were very close to having.
I said if the property had been
Frontage.
wider, we would have been allotted up to 80 square feet in display area.
And 10 feet height of sign.
It's still at 10 feet. Yeah.
I mean,
in
how
no
many,
case do I
how
think
many
we-
foot frontage do you have?
I think we have like 44, and we needed 60. No, okay, no, in line.
No, you need 150.
Yeah, so they have just under 100.
Okay.
And for this one, we do 0 to 150 feet. That's where they get that 50 square
Right.
feet from an 8. But
So
if it was 151 to 300, they get that 80 square feet and 10 feet.
Oh, excuse me. I
Exactly.
misspoke.
So
I
you were,
misunderstood.
that's all right. When you said you were very close, that hadn't struck me, and then, of course, I wanted to see.
Not close
I mean,
enough.
if you were 145 square feet, 145
Again,
foot
math is
frontage,
not my strong
and
suit,
we're
I'm
talking
struggling.
151, it might be
Right.
much more significant.
Right.
But even then,
But
you'd need a variance because you're only allowed for a 10-foot.
Right. In no case do
80
we get
80 square
15
foot.
feet. Right.
Yeah. Is the 15-foot and 15-foot height, an 88 square foot sign, is this a standard or
They
is
did
this
all
a
their
custom
marketing,
sign?
they did the layout, and by the time they put changeable copy and then stacked the icon on top of it, there's about a size they want to get for the icon relative to roadway. So by the time they did their changeable copy and put the icon on top, and then had to include a base because you can't put text on the ground, by the time you put those 3 elements together, relative to a roadway of like 35 miles per hour, you get a sign that's somewhere over 10 feet. If we're forced to lose the base and go down to like approximately 10 feet, we're going to be losing changeable copy area, and we're going to be losing logo area in order to accommodate it. We can't lose that brick base. or not brick, I think it's a faux substrate.
It's,
that
it looks like a
wood
faux
stuff.
wood or
Yeah, in
faux
most cases, that would be a masonry base, but in this case, it's a
railroad
faux
ties or something
substrate,
like
yeah.
that.
I will say it's a great looking sign. It's the newest product from Arby's. It's going to be really sharp in comparison to the older store. You're going to have the best product out there in terms of Arby's brand for RMI.
Casey, do you have a design team slide? This thing here, you got a slide like that?
Oh yeah, it's this one right here. This is their overall site plan.
Trying to figure out.
So it'd be where
Right
the
there.
house is.
The sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all the other ones there are what?
I think they're
Those are other smaller directional signs like driveway entrance here, their drive canopies back there, there's the exit. They're smaller ones.
Yeah.
And there's no question on those at all.
No, those have already been reviewed. Those are okay. It's just the monument sign.
From an administrative allowance, how far could you have stretched?
Whatever,
Is it
10% of
10%?
50, and then 10% of 8.
Okay.
So you could probably get about 55 square feet and maybe 9 feet height.
Any other questions for Mr. Scalf? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application, please step forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition of this application, please step forward. Not seeing any, I will close the public portion of the meeting and ask for discussion.
I would just like to clarify my earlier comments. I was speaking in favor of having more signs like this. I'm not a huge fan of having them, so high in the air, especially when that's like not really actually in the line of sight of people like driving and paying attention to the road. I think that, like he said, the way that this is calculated is kind of counting against them in some ways. I think that this is much preferable to having another 20, 30-foot sign with a giant glowing logo on it. But that's just my stance.
Any other comments?
If we just had the Arby's sign that recognized the business and didn't have the ability to put thank you or whatever the heck it is on there, we probably could make it more fun. I guess the question is, do you feel that that adds up enough value to give them a variance for the height? That's probably the difference in what he's asking for. I don't know if that adds anything, but it's got lots of signage.
I would say, competition-wise, I believe almost every sign along that row has that. And whether people pay attention to or not, there are people that do, and that does give them more opportunity for messaging. But
I'll say one thing, along that street, there are a lot of weird signs that have been grandfathered in, and we've had them in years past. Actually, one place next door where we come in and we've had issues. I like the looks of this sign.
Yeah.
The only question I've already stated is I don't know if you need 4 lines of information.
Personally, as far as I don't know what the technical term for it is, the box with the letters in it. I don't really care one way or the other if that is on there. If the rest of the members of the board felt more comfortable eliminating that to bring the logo down and the sign into compliance, I still find that preferable to having like one of the grandfathered, ones in.
Just to clarify, so John Roach, counsel again for the city, the grandfathered pole signs, those are for the most part being put in prior to enactment of the zoning resolution. So it's not really like they're not going to continue to come in unless you're in a lot that has the frontage that allows it. So
I'm aware. I wrote a whole thing in my notes about the point of the legal nonconforming and grandfathering in, but then I actually looked at the plans and felt it wasn't relevant to mention. So.
okay.
Well, even though, and I know, John, I understand, even though those exist, I think if you look at the criteria, I think we can justify through the use of one of the criteria, a variance, that being number 4, the variance is substantial and is minimum necessary to make possible the reasonable use of the land or structures, considering the environment down there with all of the other restaurants. And then number 9, whether the spirit and intent behind the code requirement would be observed and substantial justice be done by granting the variance. Again, that goes hand in hand with the restaurant row there that has a variation of signs that we can't undo until, of course, the property goes vacant or what might be the case. But I think those 2 criteria, if
Honestly, Mr. Cash, you took my whole monologue. So, thank you. I was going to say that I would move to approve this variance. I was going to rely on criteria 9, but I believe your addition of criteria 4 has a lot of credibility. So I would move that we approve this variance citing criteria 4 and 9.
Second.
roll call, please, Casey.
Mr. Evans? Yes. Mr. Heidenreich?
I think because we have the zoning restriction established, I'm gonna have to vote no.
Mr. Mintel?
Yes.
Mr. Gross?
Yes.
Mr. Wanamaker?
Yes.
Mr. Cash?
Yes. Okay. Now we will move to case number 25-25. This is a request by James Rudy for an area and dimensional variance for the property at 306 Charles Street. Ms. Savage?
This is a request by applicant James Rudy for an area and dimensional variance for the property at 306 Charles Street to allow for an accessory structure that is 21 feet and 2 inches in height, where Middletown Development Code, Chapter 1206.01B 10B, height limits for accessory structures only permits buildings with a maximum height of 18 feet. 306 Charles Street is approximately 0.27 acres and was purchased in April of 2011 by the applicant. The property is zoned in the city's B3 General Business District. The purpose of the B3 district is to provide for intense commercial and office development in close proximity to the interstate and high-volume streets that can provide needed goods and services to residents of the city, region, and beyond. Such district is most appropriately located adjacent to freeway interchanges and along major streets, so this property is therefore considered a legal non-conforming structure on it, the single-family dwelling with a legally non-conforming use. So per the Middletown Development Code, Chapter 1204.10, 6A, subsection 2, building height shall be measured as the vertical distance from the average grade at the base of the structure to the midpoint between the eave and the peak line for any sloped roof or to the highest point of a flat roof. The proposed maximum building height as calculated per the Middletown Development Code definition for this building would be 21 feet and 2 inches. Middletown Development Code, Chapter 1206.01B 10, subsection B, height limits for accessory structures states that all accessory structures, regardless of the zoning district, shall have a maximum height limit of 18 feet, provided that the primary exterior materials of the accessory building are similar to the primary exterior materials of the principal building. Therefore, the applicant is requesting an approximate 19% increase from the Middletown Development Code standard of 18 feet for maximum height limit. Recalculated that percentage today as well. The one on the screen is correct. So the applicant has confirmed that the primary exterior materials will match the principal structure on the property, and the applicant does not believe, if granted, the variance would negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood or the delivery of governmental services. Per the Middletown Development Code, the requirement for legal notice for variance requests and meeting notice letters for the proposed area and dimensional variance were sent to all properties contiguous and directly across the street or public right-of-way of the subject property. No comments have been received to date. Here's their variance application, their site plan, and I did speak with the applicant, and he has confirmed that the total overall height of that 24 foot 2 inch should actually read 23 feet 2 inches, but we're reading to that 21 feet 2 inch line. Here's how building height is measured. Here's the property, they own both parcels. And here's the property on our zoning map. Your area and dimensional variance criteria, time limit, and appeals process. And that concludes my staff report.
I may have not heard it. Any comments from
Nope.
contiguous property owners?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Any questions then for Ms. Savage?
I'm assuming we do not know the calculated height for the principal residence on the property?
We do not have that.
It looks like it's almost 2.5 story, 2-story with a full attic.
Yeah, here, I'll go to the front of the.
Yeah.
It is a 2-story building.
Yeah.
If not having that attic, that third,
Right.
yeah.
Any other questions for staff? If not,
I've got one. I'm just, again, being relatively new to this. This is a business?
Yes, so so there are some houses that exist along Charles Street right here, and then the comprehensive plan, when the new zoning map and the development code was adopted in 2018, they decided that this maybe going forward for the future land use of this area should be considered a B3 district, but since there are already houses that are on that street, they kind of get absolved into that legal non-conforming status. Oh, this one? Yeah.
Now, are those two separate lots?
Yes, they are 2 parcels.
And this is going on the parcel on the bottom half of the red square, or rectangle?
This is actually going onto this right here. So they do have an existing detached garage. This is an addition to. So it already has 1 level. They're adding on to that first level a little bit, but he's actually building a second story on that. And to achieve that second story, that's why he has to have that 21 feet and 2 inches in height.
So it's not a new concept?
It's not, yeah, he's not doing anything brand new except for just adding on that second floor, and then he's extending that bottom floor a little bit.
So he'll have to tear this unit down and replace it?
I can't speak to if he's gonna tear it down. He'll probably work with our building department to just salvage what he can, and then just build an addition to it, and then reconfigure. I can't speak to the building stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
and I asked this question on the last case. An administrative waiver would have given him 1.8 foot,
Correct.
which would have been 19 and,
Yeah, so
okay.
we're
Okay,
just a little bit off.
okay, okay. Any other questions for staff? If not, I'll open the hearing to the public. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, please step forward. Not seeing anybody. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition, please step forward. Okay, nobody approaching to address the board. I'll close the public portion of the meeting. Comments?
It's a shame because my decision was really, well, not my decision, but like I was very intrigued in understanding some of like the rationale and the use behind this before coming to a decision. So
I
in
can
the absence of that,
Yeah, I can speak to a little bit of his plans from what he's told me. So his ideal is to turn this kind of into his dream wood shop area. So that's kind of why he wanted the extra space inside the garage. But other than that, that's kind of most what he's spoken to me about.
so this won't be an additional residence.
No, we have very much clarified that no one will be living in the detached garage.
And it's not going to be a retail business or anything like that?
No, just personal hobby. Woodworking. He said he wants to do like an epoxy dining room table for himself and his friend maybe, but nothing major operation, he's told to me.
He's not here, so
But he can't, yeah.
he can't be here. You
Oh, no, I said, no. He can't speak for himself because he's
right,
not here,
right,
but.
right.
Is that an alley behind there where they get access?
I believe it is, yeah.
It is an alley.
I believe so.
Does appear so.
Any other? Any comments?
And that's part of my reason asking about the height of the house. I believe if there would be any cause for concern for the extra height, it might be a little different changing the neighborhood if it was in front of a 1,000-square-foot ranch. That might be a whole different story and kind of alter the entire appeal. But seeing that it's, if anyone did have any objections, most of the building, if not all, would be hidden by the large primary residence. So I believe, I mean, roughly what are we with the variance? So about 2 foot is about what the variance would be. I believe a 2-foot variance is a reasonable ask for this situation.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion and a basis for the motion? I think if you look at criteria 5, the essential character of the neighborhood doesn't appear that it will be substantially altered or that adjoining properties would suffer substantial detriment as a result. And number 9, the spirit and the intent behind the code requirement would be observed in substantial justice.
You did it again.
Sorry, Stefan.
Unless anybody else would like the motion. If no one else will motion, I would make a motion to approve the variance, and I would cite criteria 5 and 9, especially with, I believe, the intent of the code. We understand it. We know exactly like the situation I described. No one wants that. But this is still keeping within the character of the neighborhood. So I would move to approve that variance with those criteria.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Cash?
Yes.
Mr. Wanamaker?
Yes.
Mr. Gross?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Mantell?
Yes.
Mr. Heidenreich?
Yes.
All right, next case is a application for a use variance, case number 26-25. The applicant being Modern Psychiatry and Wellness, LLC. Ms. Savage?
Sure. So this is a request by applicant Modern Psychiatry and Wellness, LLC, for a use variance for the property at 1814 Clarendon Avenue to allow for the use of the property as transitional housing where Middletown Development Code Table 1204-3, principally permitted uses, prohibits the transitional housing use type in the I-2 General Industrial District. 1814 Clarendon Avenue is approximately 0.1 acres and was purchased in December of 2020 by Sterling Rentals, LLC. The property is zoned in the city's I-2 General Industrial District. The purpose of the I-2 General Industrial District is to accommodate a broad range of industrial activities, diverse in products, operational techniques, and size, which have a greater potential impact upon their environment and surrounding neighborhoods than those permitted in the I-1 district. Currently, the property is considered a legally non-conforming structure with a legally non-conforming use as a single-family dwelling. During the June 11, 2025 City of Middletown Planning Commission regular meeting, a representative of Modern Psychiatry and Wellness, LLC stated they were the compliance officer for a transitional house at 1814 Clarendon Avenue. Further investigation into that statement revealed that no certificate of zoning compliance for a transitional house at that address had been submitted or approved per city records. A notice of violation was sent to the property owner, Sterling Rentals, LLC. The notice of violation was sent for the following: violation of Middletown Development Code Chapter 1226.12, and that's just saying you didn't apply for your COZ. And then same thing for Middletown Development Code Chapter 1226.12B6, same thing, didn't apply for your certificate of zoning compliance. So the property owner, Sterling Rentals, LLC, promptly got in contact with staff to identify a path towards compliance. Per Middletown Development Code Chapter 1204.08, Table 1204-3, principally permitted uses, transitional housing is prohibited in the I-2 zoning district. One of their options to achieve compliance was to seek a use variance through the Board of Zoning Appeals to allow the transitional housing use type for this property in the I-2 zoning district. The tenant of the property, Modern Psychiatry and Wellness, LLC, submitted a BZA application to us. Per the Middletown Development Code, the requirement for legal notice for variance requests and meeting notice letters for the proposed use variance were sent to all property owners contiguous and directly across the street or public right-of-way of the subject property. I did receive one comment. It was a phone call last Friday from an adjacent property owner who expressed concerns of safety for herself, her child, and other children living on the street. Here was the variance application submitted by Modern Psychiatry and Wellness. Here is their supplemental information regarding how they achieve all those use variance criteria. Additional supplemental images and maps. Affidavit of Dr. Quentin Moss. In the affidavit of Courtney Hunter. Their Ohio Recovery Housing that they registered or applied for certification. Here was the violation notice and order that the property owner received in the mail via certified mail. Here's our table 1204-3 principally permitted uses. Here's the property. Here's our zoning map. Your use variance criteria, time limit, and appeals process for the application. And that concludes my staff report.
Any questions for Ms. Savage?
Just wanted,
Yeah.
I'm assuming at one time, judging by the closest proximity of residential zoning is R4, and that is a conditional use in that residential district?
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions?
But sorry, I'm not quite sure how to phrase this. The applicant does have all of the necessary, like, registration, certifications, everything from the state to operate as a,
They are an expert on the certification process. As I understand, it's kind of tricky and it's a little new, so I'll let them speak to that because I believe they're here tonight.
fair enough. No questions.
To follow up the affidavits of Quentin Moss and Ms. Hunter. I think it was Ms. Hunter, wasn't it? Yeah, Courtney Hunter. I recall, is this in lieu of, not in lieu of a certification to operate as a transitional housing unit? But in order to get here, was this affidavit done as somewhat of a stopgap or a confirmation of an attempt to get the certification? Or do we have to wait on the applicant?
I would wait on the
good deal.
applicant. I'm sorry. I don't
wait
want
on
to
the-
speak for anybody
Okay.
here.
Any other questions? If not, I'll open the meeting to the public. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, please step forward to be sworn. We'll do one at a time. Sir? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Identify yourself if you would, sir.
Quentin Moss. I am the psychiatrist, CEO, and owner of Modern Psychiatry and Wellness.
All right, sir. You'll have to keep your voice up.
Can I keep it up? Okay.
Yeah, because we're not amplifying here. We'll ask you questions first if the
Okay.
board has any questions, and then we'll have Ms. Hunter come up and anyone else one at a time and ask them questions.
Just know that some of the information and questions you asked, they may be able to answer for
That's
me.
fine.
Yeah.
We want the record to be, we start getting too many people talking and the record gets real confusing and we need to have a clean record. So, any questions for Dr. Moss?
So I guess I'll reiterate my previous question. So this property, or you guys do have all of the certifications needed in order to run this?
So let me explain how that works. So at the beginning of this year in January, the state of Ohio has this mandate for or higher recovery housing. That if you're providing this support for people in the community with substance use disorder, that you have to receive a certification. So we've put in all of our information that's required for this certification. We believe that the house has all of the necessary facilities for this certification. However, they have to do a site review across the state for finalization of the certification. And so we're on the list, and we believe that's probably going to be imminent as far as their site visit.
Is that the last step in certification process?
Yes, that's the last step.
They give you any indication of a time frame?
We believe they give us, let us know where we might be on the list, but it doesn't necessarily correlate to when they may show up.
Government, you gotta love government. You just have to.
As I recall, just from your business has previously come before boards have sat on to, get this sort of operation going. I don't recall every detail, but I do recall that there was this bit of a snafu where it was kind of like the certificate for another one of your locations couldn't be fully approved until you got our certificate of zoning. And then it was also vice versa. The certificate of zoning didn't quite work unless you had the certification. So do you foresee any of that repeating here, or I'm sorry, maybe if I'm speaking vague. Sorry.
That's all right, buddy. So I'm still trying to understand the question. So.
Yeah, so just based on my previous experience with approving this sort of, this sort of development, right? There was kind of there were two different things that needed to be approved, but they relied on the other thing to be approved in order for the other one to be approved. Is there any sort of circumstance like that where you can't finish that that final walkthrough until you get the variance from us?
I'm not sure if that's the case.
Hold on, ma'am.
Yeah.
Tell you what, Dr. Moss, why don't we have this young lady here come in here, and if she's your counsel and she's got a presentation prepared, why don't we hear from her, and then you're our fact source when we need you, okay?
Okay, that works. Thank you.
Come forward, ma'am. Raise your right hand, ma'am. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And identify yourself, please.
My name is Teresa Bamberger. I'm an attorney with Suter LLC, and I'm here representing the applicant, Modern Psychiatry and Wellness.
Okay.
You have met Dr. Moss, and also you will be meeting Courtney Hunter. She is the compliance officer for Modern Psychiatry and Wellness, and we're here to hopefully give you all the information you need and answer any questions that you have. We're going to go through the standards for the use variance, and in doing that, we'll probably answer a lot of questions about the use. I just wanted to introduce briefly for those who aren't familiar with Modern Psychiatry and Wellness. They provide mental health, substance addiction recovery services. This particular location is to be used as, or is used as a recovery house. So the residents at this location have already gone through treatment and therapy and have attained sobriety. The residents at this house typically would then move here for approximately 6 months as they develop skills to maintain that sobriety and reintroduce themselves into the community in a neighborhood setting. That's the goal of the recovery house. And we'll be providing a little bit more information on that with the presentation. So as the staff indicated, that this property is located in an area that's zoned for I-2 industrial. It is an existing house. I think you're probably familiar with it. It's in a neighborhood surrounded by existing similar houses on small lots on Clarendon, which is a small dead-end residential street with some on-site parking. So the question with the use variance is the appropriateness of the transitional housing use relative to the zoning that's applied to the property right now. So the first criteria, may I ask you a question? I was prepared to work with Dr. Moss to address some of these questions, but if you'd prefer me to just go through that for the record, I can do that.
I think we don't want to back and forth if
Okay.
that's what you intended on asking questions of Dr. Moss. Why don't you just give us your presentation?
Okay, very good.
If I could jump in, I mean, she does have a right to ask questions of witnesses if she wants to. So if she wants to get
Okay. Thank you. And Dr. Moss has been sworn, so, and I'll try to keep the record clean by indicating that Dr. Moss is, although I think we can probably distinguish between Ms. Bamberger's voice and Dr. Moss's voice. So go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Well, the first criteria, as you know, there are 12 criteria, and I'm just going to walk through them in order. The first criteria is that the property cannot be put to any economically viable use under any of the permitted uses in the zoning district in which the property was located. So that the property is approximately, I think, 32 feet wide by 135 feet deep. It's improved with a residential house. There's no driveway onto the property from the street. There's on-street parking on Clarendon. And there is a narrow alley in the back that's shared with other houses. There is some, I would say, a little bit disorganized off-street parking in the back off the alley. I do not believe this property has any parking on site. If you look over the uses in the industrial district, clearly they're not suitable for a property like this. The property, again, is surrounded on all sides by similar houses that are occupied and used as residences. There is no adequate parking on the lot for any kind of a business use. There's no room or ability to provide any parking on the lot for any business use. Further, most of the uses in the industrial district require access for larger vehicles or even tractor trailers, which clearly are completely impossible to get into this neighborhood or on the property. So we would think it's appropriate in that the property cannot be reasonably put to any uses that are allowed in the industrial district. The next criteria is that the variance requested stems from a condition which is unique to the property at issue and not ordinarily found in the same zone or district. Again, this property is a small residential lot in a small, older residential neighborhood that happens to be zoned industrial. Ordinarily, residential homes or small neighborhoods are not found in the residential industrial district. I understand the city's perhaps long-term plans for the area, but right now it's an unusual situation to have a property like this zoned industrial. So we feel like the application meets that criteria. The next one, C, is that the variance requested cannot otherwise be resolved by a zoning map amendment, or a zoning map amendment is not the most beneficial approach. In addressing that one, I looked to see what the city's recent comprehensive plan indicates, and it indicates an intent, again, for this area to develop in the future industrially. So I assume that it's not the city's intent to rezone this small neighborhood residential, but over time see it develop with industrial. So based on the city's comp plan, it would seem that the variance is not appropriately resolved by a zoning map amendment. The next criteria is that the essential character of the neighborhood will not be substantially altered as a result of the variance. And I was going to ask Dr. Moss a few questions to help address this criteria, if that's
Go ahead, ma'am.
acceptable.
Apparently, that is well within your prerogative.
So, Dr. Moss, you're familiar with the property at 1814 Clarendon, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And have you made any improvements to maintain the house?
I believe there's been some painting that's taken place and some repair of flooring that's taken place.
And can you describe for the board generally how the property is maintained?
It's really a collaboration with us and the landlord. We know that we want to make sure our guys are in a place that's respectable, and that way they treat it with respect and they give this some dignity. So there's some minor things that we do with our maintenance team. We have a full-time maintenance team that goes out and helps with our property, so to help with that. And then other things that may be a lift for a landlord to do, we call upon them to do that. So, and even the outside, we maintain the lawn care and the cleanliness of the place between the folks who live there and our full-time maintenance person.
And Dr. Moss, do you have any intention of changing the exterior appearance of the structure from a residential appearance?
No.
Would you say that the existing home is about the same size and compatible with the appearance of the other houses in the neighborhood?
Yes.
Thank you. So again, that criteria was that the essential character of the neighborhood will not be substantially altered as a result of the variance. And per Dr. Moss's testimony, it's the intent to continue to maintain the residential appearance of the house. There's maintenance done by both the landlord as well as Modern Psychiatry and Wellness has maintenance and repair staff that's available 24/7 should the need arise. The next criteria is that the existing structure, that there is an existing structure that cannot be reasonably used for a permitted use or conditionally permitted use in the applicable zoning district. Got a little tongue twisted on that one. The zoning district is, again, I-2, an industrial district, and I think as we've already covered in answering some of the other questions, there are no characteristics of this property that really make it suitable, reasonably suitable for any permitted use or conditionally permitted use in the industrial district. Again, we discussed the small lot size, the fact that it's surrounded by existing housing, it's on a very narrow street with on-street parking. There's no room on the property for employee parking, and certainly no room to provide for any kind of truck or tractor trailer access for industrial uses. So we believe the use variance criteria E is met. The next criteria is that the proposed use is listed in table 1204-3, which I think staff put up on the screen. There are two things that are permitted that I believe we fall under. Certainly dwellings. This is a house, and the intent is to continue to use it as a house. It also, we understand, the staff believes it meets the definition of a transitional home, which, again, the Modern Psychiatry and Wellness is using this for a recovery house. And I want to reiterate that the residents moving in have already gone through treatment and have attained sobriety at another location and treatment available elsewhere, and they move into this house once they've achieved those goals. And the intent is to allow them to live in a residential community setting for a period of time while they develop their skills to maintain that sobriety. And that's the purpose of the transitional house. So the proposed use as a dwelling and transitional house are uses that are listed in table 1204-3. The next criteria, G, is that the hardship condition is not created by actions of the applicant. I think this situation might be a little unusual, but the hardship condition is the fact that the I-2 zoning is applied to this small residential neighborhood, and this house in the residential neighborhood. Neither the owner, Sterling Properties, nor Modern Psychiatry and Wellness were involved in appealing for or applying to get the I-2 zoning on the property. It's just a condition that exists in this situation. Condition H is that the granting of the variance will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners or residents. And in helping address this one, I would again like to ask Dr. Moss to come up. You probably know all this,
Yeah.
but so Dr. Moss, in your opinion, would the use of the property adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners or residents?
I do not believe it would, no.
And can you explain the goal of the program in having the residents live in a neighborhood?
So the goal is to help people get to total wellness. So total wellness for us is not just sobriety or not using the substance for which they were sick for, but helping people get to a place where they can become gainfully employed, eventually reunited with their families, build up enough of their own reserves so they can transition to something that's more permanent. That's our overall goal. I think that, I don't mean to brag, but I think that our guys, are kind of like the model citizens. You got to go to bed at a certain time. We want you up at a certain time. We want you out looking for work, or if not already employed. You can't have any noise issues. If you're going to smoke, don't smoke in the front of the house. Don't put cigarette butts out there. Keep the place clean. And maintain the responsibilities of the house. So our goal is to, again, help people be restored and maybe even a little bit more than that, so they can reintegrate back into the community. If there are any issues from any neighbors, I would love to hear it so that we can address it, not confront it, but to address it so we can fix it. Our guys are, we want them to be the model citizens within the area where they reside. So.
And Dr. Moss, I think in your answer, you alluded to some house rules that your residents agree to adhere to when they move in. Could you review those?
Yeah, so curfew at 11 o'clock at night, kind of early. Quiet time from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. Shouting or loud music or noise at any time. Gathering on the front porches for long periods of time, so no loitering. Keep all outside yard and porch areas clear and free of clutter and trash. No littering around the neighborhood properties or streets. No possession of firearms or weapons or drugs-related paraphernalia on the property. No use of any illicit substances or alcohol, any mind-altering substances, no medical marijuana. Even while they're there in their treatment, they can't have controlled medications. If they do have a medication for medication-assisted therapy, it has to be in the form of an injection. So.
Thank you, Dr. Moss. And if you could stay here for just the next one. So just to recap, we were addressing criteria H, that the granting of the variance will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners or residents. And as Dr. Moss has explained, there are house rules that apply to this house that I would say don't apply to other houses on the street, and that there's no alcohol, no drugs, no firearms. The curfew, the residents are required to comply with basically good neighbor policies as part of the program. So I think that criteria is met. The next criteria, I, is that the granting of the variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or general welfare. Dr. Moss, in helping to address this, could you also explain the role of the house manager and the availability of maintenance for the property?
So the house manager is typically someone who's had a longer period of time of health, who's able to provide a great deal of coaching, support, to some degree supervision of the folks who are living in the house. So this is someone who's been in treatment for a longer period of time. to kind of help manage the behaviors of anyone if anyone's having any challenges. That manager then reaches out to our case managers, which are mobile in the community, to be able to provide coaching and support to be able to assist the house manager with the folks who are living there.
And how often does a supervisor who's not residing at the house visit the property?
Yeah, it could be up to 2 or 3 times a day.
So again, the criteria we're addressing is that the granting of the variance will not adversely affect public health, safety, or general welfare. And I believe by the information that's been provided in response to the last criteria and the current criteria, you can see that Modern Psychiatry and Wellness takes great efforts to be a good neighbor and ensure the safety of the residents and the safety of the neighborhood that they're in. The next criteria is that the variance will be consistent with the general spirit and intent of the code. In addressing this one, we looked at some of the general criteria that are mentioned in the zoning code as being the overall goals of the zoning code, and we'll address a couple of them that are most relevant. One is preserving the character and quality of the existing surrounding residential neighborhood. So again, Dr. Moss, it's your testimony that the house, the property will continue to be maintained in its current appearance as a house, correct?
Correct.
And that the property be adequately served by existing public facilities, including water, electric, sewers, streets, fire, schools, parks. Dr. Moss, the property is currently connected to all public utilities and has adequate public safety and other government services available, correct?
That's right.
Okay. Another criteria is that, goal of the zoning code is generally to utilize the value of the existing dwelling and the residential lot because this property is currently improved with a residential dwelling, and it will only be used by residents in your program. Your use of the property is consistent. You're going to continue to use the property as residential use, correct?
Correct.
Another criteria I think we've already addressed is protecting adjacent residential use properties from change or incompatible or inappropriate use. We'd be happy to answer any more questions, but I think Dr. Moss has already explained criteria they have in place to ensure that the use remains compatible. We'll move on to the next criteria. K is that the requested use is permitted in another district in this code. We've already addressed that transitional housing and dwellings are permitted in other districts. And the last criteria is that the variance sought is the minimum that will afford relief to the applicant. And again, permitting viable use of the property as a residential property in the residential neighborhood, we would say is the best solution for the neighborhood rather than transitioning to some industrial zone, and is the least required in order for the use to move forward. So that's the, well, I have one more thing I wanted to mention. It's in the materials that we submitted, is that persons who are suffering from substance abuse or addiction or in recovery are all considered disabled under state and federal law, among others the Americans with Disabilities Act, which allows jurisdictions to provide some leniency or flexibility in the application of the regulations. So to the extent that that's appropriate here, we would ask you to consider that, because we are trying to provide Modern Psychiatry and Wellness is trying to provide a service to the community and help its residents, and has successfully helped many, many people recover from substance abuse and addiction. So we thank you for your time, and we're happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions for Ms. Bamberger or Dr. Moss?
Your presentation cleared up the ones that I had, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Jerry.
What is the current use or situation at the home house? You have people living there?
I don't I don't believe that we
What-
have anyone living there
Let
currently.
me, I'll address that.
Yeah.
The house is currently occupied or used by residents of Modern Psychiatry and Wellness. When, because the residents that move in are sober, there's no treatment at the house, there's no group therapy, there's no medication at the house. They're living there. It was established several years ago, and they did not realize they needed to do something else for compliance. And it was brought to their attention by staff recently that they needed to bring the use into compliance under the Middletown Code. And so we are endeavoring to comply with the Middletown Code.
Just for clarification, how many people would live there ordinarily?
5.
5? Are they all males?
All males.
You mentioned in the presentation that, or part of what you're trying to achieve is to get them used to normal life, getting out in the day and looking for jobs, etc. What transportation do they have?
So sometimes they're able to use the transportation that's available around the residence. But oftentimes, we're using the case managers to get them to appointments and to get them to interviews until they're able to get established with some income to have their transportation.
So you help facilitate that. You discussed the behavior with your rules in your home, in the house, etc. What sort of rules are there once they leave the house in the morning, 7 o'clock, or whenever they leave, when they get back in the evening? How do you monitor the behaviors outside of the house?
So we're not able to monitor like their behavior on the work site. We're not able to do that. But we have a lot of interactions with these clients, throughout the week and throughout the month. So there are challenges with, struggling with the condition or having challenges with their mental health. If it's not the case managers who are going to pick up on that, then it's a nurse practitioner. Not the nurse practitioners, then it's the therapist. Not the therapist, then it's the group facilitator. So we have multiple eyes on these individuals throughout the week and the month. So hopefully we'll be able to see some of the challenges that they may be experiencing. We may not be necessarily there on the workforce.
And you also stated that the normal time that the individual would live there is 6 months, roughly. What is the success rate of getting them normalized, or whatever you want to call it?
So I'll just say that there's no such thing as normal for any of us. But I'll tell you the things that determine success rates. I can tell you that people have a success. One, having appropriate treatment, right, in which we're addressing mental health and substance use disorder. A great deal of structure, right, because the brain needs structure to actually heal. And we're providing a great deal of that. But the thing that's the greatest barrier for this population is having a safe place to be. That is the greatest challenge. So we have people who finish our program and they're doing well and they're able to feel confident that they can manage their condition and take the next steps. But it's challenging finding places for them to re-assimilate back into the community. So GCI is what we call our program, and the big word there is integration. We don't want them to stand out. We don't want them to be a different citizen. We want them to be a citizen just like everybody else, being able to manage their medical condition, much like someone who had diabetes, heart disease, or some of these other things.
One other question I had in the mind is, once they get a job in the area, in the neighborhood, etc., you said after the 6 months, provided that they assimilated properly based on your judgment, you move them back with their family. Do they then give up their jobs and stuff like that, or how do you get the family involved again that they came from?
So we have a lot of family orientation that takes place even before they get to this stage. So when they first come into our program at another site, the family is already starting to be involved. Even while they're there at the other site, they're getting passes to the family, sometimes for the weekend, and then they come back to treatment. So we're establishing that relationship, providing the family some education, hopefully establishing trust and some boundaries at the same time. My goal is to have people gainfully employed where they can sustain their family. they're able to sustain that, they're more likely to sustain their sobriety. Because not having enough money is yet another stress that these people, unfortunately, have to go with.
I'm all in favor of what you're doing. I got a question that, don't read it wrong, but with all the experience that you guys have had in this thing, how come you didn't realize that you needed to get the permit for the business before instead of in hindsight?
So you're looking at me, the CEO, the owner of the company. I'm very good in psychiatry and practicing medicine, but I'm not a good administrator. You know, and that's partly why I'm here testifying with an attorney, with my compliance officer, because I'm not knowledgeable on these things, and I thought that what we were doing was just appropriate because folks were doing well in the community. And then when we had the first hearing, when the water was cut off at the other residents by the city because of lack of zoning, that's when it flared up that, oh, we have to do something different how we manage it.
If I could just add to that, I think the regulatory scheme has recently changed, which explains some of that, because recovery houses for people who have achieved sobriety weren't previously certified or licensed. And that program just started in January of this year. And as part of that rollout, and that's also why they haven't gotten to the facility yet, because they've got a huge backlog, because everybody that was out there is now registering as part of Ohio Recovery Housing Program. So there's a more current awareness of, you know, other permitting that goes along with this use.
You talked about success that you have. Do you extend situations where the success is not achieved, or what happens?
That's a good question. So when people are not doing well in the house, then we try to offer them, you know, a higher level of support and care, which might include coming back to the program where they were before. Hey, let's see if we can brush up on some things, figure out what were the challenges, and see how we can fix them. Or it might mean trying to refer them to a higher level of care where they can get, you know, even more advanced treatment, longer periods of time than what we offer. So our goal is if we see someone who's struggling, let's quickly get them tucked in somewhere where they can get care.
Any other questions?
Yes, just real quick. How long have you been in this facility doing this type of work? How long?
So in this house, we've been doing this for 4 years. Yeah.
Approximately how many people have moved through the facility?
I wish I can give you an answer on that, but it would be scores.
I'm sorry, what?
It would be scores.
Wow.
Scores of people.
With that said, have there been any problems in that intermediate area with the residents that you've had through, or anything like that?
So I'm not even aware of any complaints or any issues. As I mentioned, our team is pretty quick and a great deal of discernment to see when someone's having struggles, and either we give them extra support or we try to refer them back to where we were treating them or to a higher level of care quickly.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
If I could just add in response to that question, I mean, to our knowledge, to the applicant's knowledge, there have not been any complaints lodged with Middletown, which would have then alerted Middletown to the fact that the recovery house was there, or the applicant. So it's been operating there without problems, to the extent that we know.
Any other questions before Dr. Moss and Ms. Bamberger leave? Okay, thank you.
Briefly, Chairman Cash, just in relation to the request for reasonable accommodation, I have a few questions for Mr. Moss, or Dr. Moss, sorry. Dr. Moss, how many people are currently residing at the property?
Tell you what, my compliance officer, who's right here, she can tell me exactly.
Certainly, and I'll likely ask her the same questions, but just while you're here testifying, given that you've requested a reasonable accommodation under the Fair Housing Act, Americans with Disabilities Act, the implications that has for the city, I have a few questions for you. Do you know how many people are residing at the property right now?
I do not know. I know that we have capacity for 5 people, and I don't know when those folks have been moved
Okay. Do you know the individuals personally who are residing at the property right now? But you don't know them personally? Okay. Do those individuals have a current disability?
So all of the folks who are within our program have a primary substance use disorder.
Okay. Do you know if the individuals at 1814 Clarendon have a current disability?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know, but you don't know who they are?
I don't know the specific names, but as a criteria to enter into this program, they have to have substance use disorder.
Okay. Who makes that determination? Do you make that determination for each resident?
No, actually, if you want to know what the treatment process is, someone comes to our practice and they have an evaluation by an intake a social worker who does an assessment and they look at the symptoms and the conditions of the history and they come up with a diagnosis. And then after that, they see the nurse practitioner or myself who then review the patient as an initial assessment. We either agree or we may make some modification of their diagnosis, and then they receive care ongoing by a number of professionals, multidisciplinary team, who all have the ability to shed some light also.
Okay. And did that process happen for the individuals living at 1814 Clarendon? Okay. If your request for a reasonable accommodation is denied, what would you do?
For one, it would eliminate the possibility for a number of people to be able to have, what I think is their right, to be able to reside within the city with their disability, support the community.
Okay. I get, so what would you do?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
You know, I would have, of course, have to abide by the rules that you have. I'm not sure what the next step would be.
Would you consider a property in a residentially zoned district?
And I'm not sure.
Do you think it would be a challenge to move to a property in a residentially zoned district?
I think that it may have some challenges if you have to go through a similar process to this.
Okay. Other than the zoning process, are there any other challenges that you think you would expect if you moved from this property to a residentially zoned district?
There are a couple of things. So one, the features of the houses that we use have to have certain requirements. They have to have a certain number of bathrooms, a certain number of basins. They have to be appropriately safe. They have to be able to pass this inspection by Ohio Recovery Housing. So that limits the scope of the houses that we can get access to. Secondly, the landlords that we would work with, right, they have to be in agreement that the property could be used for this purpose, and they have to sign off on that. And there are many people who still will not.
Okay. Do you think you would have trouble finding a house in a residentially zoned district in the city of Middletown?
Yes.
Okay. Why is that?
As for all the reasons that I just mentioned.
Okay.
You know, it becomes very unique opportunities for me to partner with a landlord who has a house that's capable of being able to pass this inspection, but also has a philosophy of being able to help these people.
Have you been turned down by other landlords in the city?
We have not sought other places, you know, within the residential.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Sorry, I just had some questions about there's a request, there's the use variance, which is one issue. There's a request for a reasonable accommodation under Fair Housing Act, Americans with Disabilities Act. That has implications for the city that I want to get the record fleshed out a little bit legally. So.
I appreciate that, and if I just might add, I don't know that you intended it, but it sounded like there was an implication that the application relies upon an accommodation under the Americans with Disabilities Act, and it's our belief that the application conforms with all of the use variance standards without that extra accommodation, but if the board felt differently, we would like you to consider that. But we think that this is clearly a residential house in a little residential district that happens to be zoned I2. Clearly, industrial uses aren't appropriate in this area, so we think that the application on its own merit meets the criteria that the zoning code sets forth.
And I'll echo that this separate consideration on the reasonable accommodation from the request for a use variance, so.
Right. Any other questions for Ms. Bamberger or Dr. Moss? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application, please step forward to be sworn. Not seeing anyone. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please step forward. Not seeing anyone, I'll close the public portion of this meeting then. And if I can just get one clarification from John. So we're not considering the reasonable accommodation aspect,
So,
since that's not a criteria within our review.
so I think the first question before the board is, should a use variance be granted? And that's why I would encourage you to spend your time in deliberations focusing on the standards for a use variance, the evidence you heard, should a use variance be granted? And then once that decision's made, then we can address, depending on which way that decision goes, then that determines whether the request for reasonable accommodation is relevant or necessary. So I think the first decision to be made is whether to grant a use variance.
Thanks for the clarification. Okay, comments from the board?
Let me open up the system. Those of you on the planning commission, when we put the master plan together for the city and we zoned something I-2, that and it overlays the district that perhaps really wasn't I-2 related. The thought process that I would follow was that area would eventually be converted to an industrial use. And I don't know if that's a consideration here, but I know, or I believe in the past, we've abandoned some houses that are in that situation. And whether that has been involved here or not, I don't know. But to me, it just looks like long-term, it's not a long-term situation potentially for any residential use or any occupancy. I just wanted to throw that out and if anybody's got any additional comments on that.
I think you described it well. I think that regardless of my opinions of whether or not that should be zoned I-2, that is a long-term projection for the area, and that, I mean, the options are kind of like let people live in the houses or let them rot when you get down to it. And there's a housing crisis. So that's kind of what it boils down to for me. But I think in putting this in terms of like a short-term and long-term thing, I think that's a good way of framing it.
Any other comments? Stephen?
Well, I mean, I believe it'd be a whole different circumstance if it had not been changed to an I-2 district. And so that does kind of create, as the witness explained, you know, the hardship and need for this variance. So really, I mean, it is a residential property, and I think. Again, Mr. Evans asked the question that I was going to about have there been any issues before. It's been operating, it seems, clearly for 4 years. And I believe the witness testified well enough, I believe, to justify the use criteria that we have in front of us. I believe all those were answered fairly clearly and understandably. So that's what I see.
I don't recall, I'm trying to go through the presentation here. Were there any notifications of concerns for the witnesses?
There was one comment
Okay, that was the one you typed out. Okay, thank you.
I've got it highlighted.
Any other comments? The alternative is if we deny the use variance, I think the property becomes pretty much dilapidated. Is there any other, I mean, if it's a,
I guess it just reverts
because it would have to be, well, since it's a since its use has been abandoned, basically, has it not? The original use has been abandoned, or? Which would be the single-family residence. Yes, correct. So. Right. So if we deny the use variance, the use no longer can exist, so the landlord now has to do whatever he or she is going to do with the property, inhabit it, but it can't be used for anything but a single-family residence, since that was its original use. Yeah, that was its original non-conforming. Right. Any?
I will make a motion to approve based on all of the review criteria. I think that the presentation that Miss, I can't recall her name, Bamberger, was really covered all the bases.
Have a motion?
Second.
Roll call, please. Yes.
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 Yes. Now, I am assuming with that vote, the request for a reasonable accommodation is moot?
Yeah, that's correct. No need to discuss the reasonable accommodation.
All right, thank you, thank you. With that, let's see, the last application we have is case number 27-25. And this, I'm sorry, let me get, I dog-eared it. This is an application by Weedman Electrical Technology, Inc. Huh?
Do you want to take a break before we hear?
Yeah, does anybody?
Please.
I didn't even.
Thank you.
Does any? We'll adjourn and reconvene at.
I was just ready to keep going all night, guys.
We'll reconvene.
You're not our age.
We'll reconvene at 7:55. Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, and the next case is a request for an area and dimensional variance, case number 2725, a request by applicant Weedman Electrical Technology, Inc. for an area and dimensional variance. Ms. Savage?
This is a request by applicant Weidman Electrical Technology, Inc. for an area and dimensional variance for the property at 407 Charles Street to allow for a building height of 80 feet in an I-2 General Industrial District. For Middletown Development Code Table 1204-5, site development requirements for non-residential districts only permits buildings with a maximum height of 50 feet. 407 Charles Street is over 12 acres
Any questions for Ms. Savage?
Yeah, I have one. Is this a new company? Because I thought Graphic Packaging moved out of Middletown.
So that is an excellent question for an individual who could answer much more than I could.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any questions? All right, no question. Seeing no questions for staff, I'll open the meeting to the public. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, please step forward to be sworn. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And for the record, please identify yourself.
I am Claire Fetters-Vinegar. I am the city planner. I am the person who instructed Wideman Group to come to Board of Zoning Appeals when they initially came to and met with the city to discuss this project at this site. I was reviewing the footprint of the building in relation to our site development standards. And as you can see, the footprint of the building is one contiguous building. And the reason that the maximum building height in the I-2 zoning district only comes into play when it is directly adjacent to a residential district. The residential district is to the north of this site. And so you can see the closest bit of that one contiguous building is, I don't remember the footage away, but is well within 200 feet. The proposed building addition is going to be further south on this site, so I don't believe it'll be within 200 feet if I recall correctly. And I did bring with me a 2012 permit issued by a previous city staff member for actually a building height addition where it is proposed to be 65 feet. So there is a part of this building that is already at 65 feet in height. And at the time, I did look back at our previous zoning ordinance that was in effect in 2012. I do believe the building height was still restricted to 50 feet, but I cannot confirm since I don't currently have access to that file at this time due to the cybersecurity incident. Because the way our previous zoning ordinance was written, certain sections would be updated and there would be a following in parentheses and italicized text that would say ordinance approved effective this date. So I can't confirm what the date of that text was, and if when I looked at the previous zoning ordinance, if the height of the building restriction was in effect in 2012, because that previous zoning ordinance in total was in effect until 2018, and then our new one was in effect. So I just wanted to give a brief background on why the applicant is before you, and why that even though that the proposed location of the building height addition is still going to be further south in that residential district, but it is one contiguous building. There's no breaks, there's no two separate buildings, it's just one building, so therefore that 200 feet comes into play. Sorry, that was a lot.
So if this new construction, this new building that's to be constructed was not contiguous to any of the other buildings, the 50-foot requirement?
It would then fall to what the fire department feels is appropriate in terms of building height.
So in the
Can you go to the site development standards?
Yeah, so in the I-2 district where it's in that bracket with 6, that alludes to a provision in our code that states if it exceeds that 200 feet from the residential zone, there is no height limit. It's determined by our fire marshal what he deems appropriate. But it's just because it's one contiguous building that's less than 200 feet. So that one part that was 200 feet from the residential is kind of broken off and separated. Then there might be a possibility that you would
Right, because then the fire department would be involved.
Right. Well, and they'll still be involved later in
Well,
the
they
process.
still would be
but
involved, but
zoning
it would be
typically-
solely their decision and not ours.
Correct.
Okay.
All right. And if you guys have any questions, I do have copies of the previous zoning permit if you would like them.
And that was, and you said there was a 65-foot height
Yes, so
part
on
of
the
this
permit,
building,
it's,
which would have been, again, there would have been a variance granted for that because the 50-foot was still the
No.
max at that time?
I could not find any record
Okay.
of a variance being granted. On the permit, it states the proposed construction, the height would be 65 feet, and the ordinance requirements is 106 feet. I could not verify that. The way I interpreted the code, the previous effective zoning code, that it was still the same provision that you see today. However, this was back in, I think, late July, maybe early August, when we first met with the applicant. So it's been a while since I've looked at that previous effective zoning code.
If we approve this 80-foot, does that relieve the 65-foot problem in the past? 'Cause it's
I think it
the
would be
property.
all encompassing, because the variance runs with the property.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Ms. Benninger? Thank you, Claire.
Yep.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application, please step forward, sir.
Yep.
Raise your right hand, sir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Identify yourself, please.
Yes, Jacob Schulte, Acting Director for the Community and Economic Development Department. So, good evening, members of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Again, Jacob Schulte. Speaking to you tonight in a capacity separate from the jurisdictional authority of the Planning and Zoning to kind of give a little bit more of a lens on the economic development side of this project. A question was raised that this was the GPI, Graphic Packaging International facility, and that is correct. GPI ceased operations here in June. There was a pretty broad kind of report announcement made back in April. A warn notice went out to 136 employees at this facility. One of our top 10 employers in the community had departed from us. So since then, the Economic Development Department, or division under the CED department, has been working with Graphic Packaging International to find an adaptive reuse of this facility. Weidman Electrical, Chris Bircher in particular, could not be here tonight at this month's Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. He sends his regrets and his regards in that capacity. We've been in communication with Weidman, being they've been the most recent interest to communicate with GPI their interest in the reuse, purchase of the facility, and obviously this appeal, that this variance is a portion there so they can further engineer the adaptive reuse. So facility itself, it's been a pretty big staple in the community. Again, leaning into GPI, it's been a very strong employment center for the community, which is why the city's economic development division has been so keen to continue to try to work through this. This variance itself is only about a 15,000 square foot section, more towards that center, as our city planner, Ms. Benninger, was alluding to. And this variance would be required for them to continue to put a new paper mill machine inside the building to get to their capacity in their own operations. Weidman Electrical has a location in Urbana, Ohio, as well as Vermont. It's actually a Swiss company. And this building in particular, it would be relevant to kind of electrical paperboard insulation for electrical components, as to kind of what they do, a little bit of that bailiwick. But in short, this business expansion would make a pretty profound impact to our job creation and the efforts that we're doing here tonight. And it'd repurpose a historic facility. So before GPI, some of you folks may remember Jefferson Smurfit, which had operated here, as well as I want to say went back to Gardner Box, had a presence here as well, in addition to International Paper. So aside from that, thank you all for your service to our community and the consideration of the request. I'm not the applicant. I'm just kind of speaking in support here, but I can maybe answer some of the development-related projects, but I don't want to speak out of turn.
How many employees will they?
Pretty significant.
Got a round number?
Between 50 to 100 is what's being anticipated.
Very significant.
Yes.
Is their presence, are they already in this facility, Weidman Electric?
They are not. So they are still working through their due diligence. Obviously, this is a major item that our Planning and Zoning Division has brought up before them. They wanted to clear that hurdle before working through kind of those finer next steps, right? So,
Yeah.
yes.
Are you aware of what the environmental impact and emissions of this new machine would be? I'm sure that you don't really have that much.
I am not, and I don't want to speak out turn for
All good.
the applicant.
Is there continued operation, or if there, is there commencement of operations contingent upon this variance?
This variance, yes.
Any other questions for Jacob? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application, please step forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please step forward. Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and ask for comments, discussion.
I think this one's easy. I mean, it's all upside, really. And as far as this height would be from residential, it's not going to be a big factor.
I think it's premature to say it's all upside if we're not aware of what the emissions and environmental impact of such a machine will do. However, I'm not going to hold up a project over that, but it does make me feel a little uneasy.
Any other comments?
I was just so much. I got it now. Okay. I was looking at this. I was just seeing how close it was, but yeah, that's from the residential area. That's
The railroad track in between and the biggest part of it.
It's well below. Now that I saw this closer here, so I mean, I think I believe that it makes sense. And it makes sense for the city. It'd be good to see a new employer take that space. What I guess the biggest question would be the criteria that we use to make our decision.
2, 4, and 9.
5 as well, I think. Essential character of the neighborhood is not going to be altered or affected.
Yeah. 2, 4, 5, and 9.
So, do I have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve this based on the criteria of the use adjustment of number 2, 4, 5, and 9.
I'll second that.
Roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
I'd like to thank the city employees for doing a great job getting it to this point, and I say yes.
Abstain.
Yes. Okay, that's the last application we have for any variance. Do we have any old or new business?
I'd like to welcome Jim Fox to our team.
Welcome, Jim.
Thank you.
And your title, Casey's already told us in any. Okay. Zoning administrator, very good. Okay. These meetings don't normally go this long.
No. Sure. We don't normally have six public hearings either.
All right. With that, as far as that introduction, does that end Jim's? See ya. Any other new business?
I have one more thing for you guys to bring up, and those of you who serve on the planning commission, you might be familiar with this conversation. But in our codified ordinances for the city, chapter 260, boards and commissions generally, we do have something in there that states we should be voting on absences from the board, whether they're excused or unexcused. So I just wanted to give everybody here warning that now going forward, what we have on the very pretty well know that after roll call is taken, we will be voting on your unexcused absence. Now, it is up to you to determine what is excused or what is unexcused. So, that's up to you all for discussion.
Well, I know council's procedure is if 2 unexcused absences is an automatic disqualification, is what Mr. Horn was telling us. consecutive, yes.
Along that lines, if, when we state that we cannot make the meeting, are we to give you a reason?
Well, I think that's for us to discuss. And I've been dwelling on this because I'm not sure that the administration needs to know a reason for an excuse if in fact we call and make you aware of that. There are personal reasons people don't want to necessarily have to disclose for not being here. My own opinion is either an email to Casey indicating that we're not going to be here or a phone call constitutes an excused absence.
I believe that's the crux of the issue is communication and just knowledge of.
Right.
No one wants to be surprised and show up and realize they don't have quorum. So, I mean, I think that's, sometimes I would kind of agree, Mr. Cash, reason is irrelevant as long as it's communicated and known.
Well, I would think we're all on this board, not only for the pay.
Yeah, no, of course.
But,
Can't wait till we get our 100% raise.
not
Well, you didn't get it?
But that we have a belief that we're here to do a civic, exercise a civic responsibility, and so, I
I think we all agree with that.
yeah.
As long as we make them aware of it, that's an excuse.
So I would move that, so that we institute the voting, or do we have to actually move for this to be?
Or I think we just have to have an understanding.
Okay,
I just wanted to give you a heads up.
sure, okay, okay.
Yeah.
I think that's
reasonable.
obvious. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Well,
Snail mail.
yeah.
You take pigeon by chance, or?
Good. Any other new business, Casey or Jim?
Other than that, I don't have anything.
All right. Good. We're looking forward to it. Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
well,
Adjourn, let's go.
with that being said, all in favor of adjournment, aye.
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 This meeting is adjourned. Do I have to sign? You do. You have